All right, so this is George, and he's agreed to be interviewed about his beliefs about what happens after this life. We're sitting at a McDonald's, and he just told me that he's waiting for the rain to stop. He's on his motorcycle, and so he's got a little bit of time on his hands.
I do.
So you had about 2 minutes, I think, to think about that question.
Yeah,
What do you think happens after this life? So what do you think about that?
I think now at this point of my life, I honestly think nothing. I really think that we end and that's it. There's still a little bit of part of me that thinks that we come back, maybe to live in a different vessel.
You said there's a part of you that
wants
that or believes that?
Well, I grew up as Roman Catholic, so I used to be very religious, but as you become older, I think instead of being the beliefs that were instilled by my family, you start having your own mindset to see what's going on. So got a little bit away from the church, and I don't want to say I'm an atheist because I do believe in a higher power, but half of me either believes that nothing happens, but a little bit of me does want to believe that we do come back, because I do believe like in deja vu, so maybe that's a past life or whatnot in there. So I don't know, I've had people tell me you want to be a Buddhist or something like that, but it's very, I honestly do think that we might come back to try something different in the next life. Yeah.
Now when you say a higher power, you think of like God or any
like maybe like supreme being, like I don't know if I can actually say God on there, but a higher power that obviously we don't have any idea whatsoever about.
So do you think any ideas, like do you think this higher power would have a personality, like a being that we can communicate with, or do you think
I don't think
it's
we
more
can.
like
I think it's more of a sit back and it happens kind of thing. I don't think, I know it sounds funny, it's almost, it just like, if you ever remember the game The Sims, if you want, like where you like control little people and family.
SimCity and all
like SimCity or something like that. That's the easiest way. I remember I have a son, and that's how I like to explain it as well too. Like maybe that's how we're trying to show him religion and everything. So maybe that's how our lives are and everything. So I really do think that we're just sit back and run along for the ride. It's pretty much really predestined.
Do you think that this higher power has a purpose for us, or when you say a higher power, would you say that that's the power that made everything, like it's the creator?
See, it's funny because I was taught with creationism, but I do believe in evolution. So I hate to say I like to choose and pick what I want to believe, but you know what, that's what I choose to believe. I do believe, maybe it's just because of my upbringing, that I do believe in creationism, but there's a lot of evidence obviously out there that supports, and you just can't see how there's a link there somewhere. So it happens somehow. If it's because of a supreme being, or is it just because of that one perfect condition that science has allowed us to do it? I'm in between both of them. Just because, but again, I can acknowledge that both of them can be right.
Yeah. I guess when I was saying a creator, I was thinking more in terms of like what brought everything into existence, like
how did everything begin to be? Like I said, like it's like a recipe. So if everything was mixed at the right time, at the right moment, life could have started that way, or maybe there was. Maybe when we die, we find out, right? So not something I'm trying to. That's why I'm waiting for the rain to stop. I'm not trying to find out right now, but just. I guess you have to be open to both without offending everybody, because this is something that can be really touchy-feely with people. So I'm open to both of them. I do agree. Like I said, I was raised Roman Catholic, do understand a little bit of that, but in my brain, I can't acknowledge, I have to acknowledge that it could have been, just like I said, perfect time, perfect moment, everything just added up at that specific time.
Now, would you say there was a certain time in your, like you grew up Roman Catholic, but then was there a time when you just said, this is
probably
not
like when
for me, or
my early 20s. I hit my early 20s and just listening in church and just trying to think outside the church. I think being more the church being conservative, and I like to be liberal, and just my way of thinking. That's probably when I say, you know what, I can still kind of believe in some of the instills over there, but what, I'm my own person. I can also choose what I want to believe, and still respect that.
And do you think when you think about reincarnation, and you said that you you kind of think like was deja vu kind of makes you think that that's
It is
real?
because, like, it's funny. I've always things I feel like I've done stuff before that I've never done before. I feel natural at it, and I can't help but wondering, okay, maybe this wasn't a past life.
I see.
And you gotta, to make it feel so natural, you have to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
Like I flew an airplane for the first time like last year, and it felt like natural. Like the guy was talking, but I kind of knew where everything was and everything. There, he had to do a couple simulators and everything, but it felt like perfect. It felt like I've done that before.
Yeah.
So maybe in a past life I was a pilot or whatever the case may be, but it's just you feel something take over you, and you just go with it, and you feel natural.
Yeah.
With it.
Have you ever like predicted the future with it? You know, like
No,
I mean,
nothing.
I mean, I've actually like felt like, okay, I know what's going to happen next. You know,
I've never said that.
So yeah,
but just
well,
like,
and then
until something happens, and then I feel like it's happened before.
yeah,
But that's it. But nothing like I can't foresee anything.
yeah, and for me, it's more like I know what's going to happen next, but I'm not real sure.
Yeah.
So and then when something does happen that I kind of thought was going to happen, then it's kind of, I look back and think, oh, I think that was going to happen, but. I personally just think that like we dream so much every night that the chances that you're gonna feel like you've done something,
It's weird because when I'm about to knock out, my mind wanders all over the place. But am I curious to see what happens? Oh, absolutely. I think everybody is, but nobody wants to get there just yet.
Yeah.
to see what happens. So
yeah.
all I can say right now is like you just enjoy the moment, and I think that's the point right there.
Do you when you say you hope that there's another life, do you enjoy life?
I
right?
enjoy life, but you know what? Hopefully you kind of remember lesson. Like again, you might not remember anything, but it'd be nice to try to do it again and try to see if you can. Maybe at the end you get to see how you ranked, how you did, whatever, how your life was, and then you come back and you try to do it differently.
Yeah, yeah. So you feel like there's a purpose as far as like just improvement?
I think,
kind of thing,
yeah,
or?
I think that's the biggest thing. You try to improve yourself every day, but obviously, maybe I would hope that you can also get to improve in a different chance, like in a different life.
Yeah. Now, do you feel like you have a good understanding of the Catholicism you grew up in, or Christianity in
I did.
general?
I did. I used to go to Sunday school. I did everything. So for the most part, I want to say my parents really did install it in me. When I am off on Sundays, I'll still go.
Yeah.
Just to, because there's a part of me that still wants to go there.
Yeah.
It was part of my life for so many years.
Like what would you, kind of like in rejecting something or moving on? It's kind of like positively you feel like, well, I'm moving on to a different sort of beliefs, but. In essence, you've kind of rejected the old belief. But what would you say it is that you rejected? Like, what do you think that Catholicism is?
I don't think it was one thing that rejected me. It was just multiple things.
Yeah.
I do believe in some of I do respect the commandments and follow them, like stuff like that. It's just maybe the whole idea of the church being run like a corporation.
Oh, okay.
So I think that's a bit. And then over here, when I've gone to the church in Central America, you can see the difference of how it's run to like help people there versus how it's run in this country.
Oh.
So you see little things like that. It's more about corporations, about money. It's about almost like a standard, I think corporations is the biggest thing. The way you can say it. It's just the way it's taught to people.
Yeah.
And I think that was the biggest turn for me.
Yeah. Are you from Central America? Or
Half. I was born here, but my parents are from
what country?
Guatemala.
Oh, okay.
Guatemala and Cuba.
Makes me think of Archbishop Romero in, I think it was, I want to say El Salvador, that was gunned down by the soldiers right during Mass, and he's basically a martyr. He was just sainted in the Catholic Church, but he definitely would, say that church was not a corporation, that he was there for the people and that sort of thing, so I didn't know if you were familiar.
No, I wasn't, but like that's just basically just my observations going to church and just seeing everything that's happened in the past 20 years.
I guess what I was wondering though is more, what would you say is the central message of the church or of the Christian religion as far as your understanding of it?
You know what the biggest thing what my parents thought was like, you just want to better yourself, but better the people around you. Your ideal is to be like, I don't want to say a perfect person, but by following the commandments at least, you can strive to like help yourself, help your family, help others around you. You don't want to be like a greedy SOB to say like that. So I think that's the biggest thing. You just want to overall like help everybody.
Yeah. So I don't know if you're familiar with other world religions, like you got Islam and Hinduism and Buddhism, and do you feel like they're all pretty much the same that way? Like they're all teaching you to try to improve your life?
I took a world religion class as one of my first college courses, like just because I was fascinated by it. And the underlying of all the religions, it doesn't put you first. So that's one thing I want to say. It's trying to make you better. It's just with so many religions out there, you do wonder which one's right, which one is, and then when you read something, you say like, well, I'm more like this. Like I said, I might be more Buddhist, or I kind of agree with this with Islam. So it's like almost like you want to go a la carte and build your own religion and on there. But world religions have always fascinated me just to see what people do believe. Again, like somebody in my age in India can be installed different morals and everything. Why you don't eat cows or Hinduism and all that stuff. So it's different. It's fascinating me, but. Yeah, it does almost sound like the underlying message is the same: to better your soul as a person.
Yeah, and then of course Christianity has Christ, so like you've got going to the Catholic Church. You grew up with the cross, the crucifix in front of the church, and you know that it's about Jesus, right? What do you think was maybe the basics of his life and teachings? Like, what do you think? How would you sum that up? Like, what was his purpose and what makes him special, I guess?
I guess what makes him special is that if he can actually be sacrificed to show the forgiveness of sins, that's an underlying. If a father can sacrifice their sons to show a bigger picture of it, that paints a bigger impression for people. Do I believe Jesus? I believe there was a Jesus. Do I believe he was the Son of God? Again, that's where.
Well, you have to believe in God first.
You got to believe in God first. So it's the biggest thing. Like I said. Do I 100%? Like I said, I know there's something there. I just don't. I can't say with certainty 100% that there is somebody there. There's always going to be that little bit of doubt.
Yeah. So I guess his death on the cross would be like would you say like an example of sacrifice then?
Oh, without a doubt. Like I'm saying, that is no parent would want to see their own child, tortured. More or less crucified on the cross. So that's more of that's a big example, big picture that you can see.
Would you say that's a positive thing of Christianity, or negative? Because some people would say
it's positive if you're willing to show a bigger picture to show an example of. It's would I be able to? Would I do the same thing? Absolutely not.
Right. You have kids?
I do, and I would never.
Yeah.
I would never sit back.
Right.
So, and that's the biggest thing. So that's maybe one of the few things. Like, things if God wants something. If my son's gonna die because God wants it, no, I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't sit back. I would do everything in my power to try to reverse course on that.
Yeah. Now, so when you talk about improving yourself, and that like religions are about improving yourself, like, do you feel like you're a good person and how do you see yourself?
I feel myself like an average person. Like I get my own challenges. You're constantly being challenged. Your ethics, your morals are constantly being challenged every day. It's taking the time to step back and acknowledge to make sure that you are making a good decision, whatever the case may be. So I consider myself average. I have my good days and I have my bad days. I can never say that I'm better or worse than any other day. I like to, when I wake up, my goal is to try to be good.
Yeah. So, if there's no God, I don't know, just something to think about. Like, who decides what's good?
I do. It's gonna be me. It's gonna be if I can. I think even on our level, we can tell what's morally right and what's morally wrong. And if we have to second guess ourselves, our conscience tells us. So if you can go soundly to sleep at night with the decisions you're making, you think you're doing something fine, but if you feel something's wrong, you're gonna know.
Yeah.
There's no way you're not gonna know that something's wrong.
Yeah. So, and then kind of with that, like if you're kind of like judging yourself to, am I doing good, or am I a good person, morally good, that sort of thing. would you say there are bad people in the world?
I say there's people that make bad decisions, and continually failure to acknowledge your bad decisions can make you a bad person.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you think about it, to say someone is a bad person, or even that their decisions are bad, would you say that you're judging them?
It's judging one, but it's funny because I always say I don't want to judge anybody. So,
Right.
so if somebody does wrong by me, yeah, you might be mad, but I stay back. I say it's your life. However you want to be perceived by the people in your life, that's up to you.
Yeah.
The only thing that I care about is how I'm perceived in the people in my life.
Yeah. Because that's the thing is, if we make our own standard for what's right and wrong, then ultimately we're judging people by our standard, if that makes sense. If we have a different standard, a standard that came from somewhere else, we might, we might judge people, we might evaluate them according to that standard, but we're not the ones who set it, if that makes sense. So I could look at someone, for example, the Ten Commandments says you shall not kill, right? Or murder. So if I see someone murdering someone, if I came up with that standard, then I'm judging them to be a bad person, right? But if I'm going by an outside standard that I didn't make up, kind of your universal standard, someone murders someone, I could say they're a bad person, but not judge them. I'm just saying what is, like they killed someone, they murdered, therefore they've broken that standard, and that's the fact. See what I'm saying? So it kind of makes it hard not to be a judgmental person if there is no God. If that makes sense.
It does, but it does. But like I said, if you do believe you're going to be judged, then you're gonna have to pay the piper in the end anyway. So like I said, and I think that's the part of it that keeps me like what I choose to believe. So when I want to choose, I'm just waiting for them to pass by. That's the part where I'm saying where I don't know what keeps me open.
Yeah.
What keeps me, so like I said, I could be totally wrong.
So what kind of keeps you open is there's always the possibility there is a God, and we're
correct.
accountable
And
to
like
him.
I said, I love science, but science is just a guess. Science has been proven wrong, so
Yeah.
could they be wrong on this? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Could it be right? Absolutely. But things that we were taught 50 years ago could be wrong. Wrong today. So, and that's the reason why, because it's not 100% absolutely, you always have to put that little, even if it's a little short of doubt, it's that doubt that keeps you like, okay, I have to at least consider the possibility that there's something else out there. So that might be it.
Where I come from I'm a Christian. I go to a church, and when I think about Christianity, and I'm aware of science. I'm actually a high school teacher. I teach history, so not science or anything, but I believe in science. I mean, science, as a Christian, I believe it's a God-given. Like, science couldn't exist if there weren't universal laws, like gravity, for example. Like, science observes and makes hypotheses. Yeah,
correct.
And it's all based on the constant, on physical laws, if that makes sense. Like, you can predict things because they will always, under the same exact circumstances, they'll always do the same thing if it's the exact circumstances.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? So there's something about the universe that is constant. Even though it seems chaotic, there's a lot of order to it. So I would say that order comes from an orderer, it
just makes you...
Like the laws, the universe, physical laws come from a lawgiver, So as a Christian, I would say science exists because there is a God. It's not like they're opposed to each other. So now, if science is my only authority, I might come up with totally different conclusions than I would if I believe that God revealed himself in some other way other than through science.
So like proof, like that's where people say they want it, if science prove.
So the Bible actually teaches that you can know, in general, you can see what God is like through creation. In the same way that if you looked at a painting, you know a little bit what the painter is like from the work that he did. Or if I look at a brick house, I have an idea that there was a bricklayer and there was an architect. I can't see him, can't see those people, but I know what their intentions were. I know what they were. So we can learn a lot about God from creation. So I'm not totally against science, but I would say, I'm a person of faith, which means I can't prove Christianity. I can't go up to anyone and say I can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that Christianity is true. My position on it is I can say that it's a reasonable faith. And what I mean by that is there are reasons, there's evidence for it, but it's not so sure that I can, the Bible actually says faith pleases God, that we need faith, to believe in Him. That He's not like like if God was like an energy source, like electricity, for example. Electricity is subject to the laws of nature also, physical laws. So like if you apply certain forces and switches and things to electricity, you can harness it and control it and get it to do what you want it to do. God wouldn't be like that. Like God would not. It wouldn't be like He's subject to the laws that He came up with, because He made them. He decides when and where He'll do things. So we can't. That's why we could. I don't believe a scientist could ever discover God.
Okay.
Not that a scientist can't believe in God, but I don't think we could ever prove God exists, because proof means that you run an experiment and
it's tangible that you can either see, feel it, or whatever the case is.
And it always has to come out the same way every time. And I think God is beyond that, as a personality.
And I would agree. Like people always say, I see what I want to believe, but if you can touch it, you can't really feel gravity. Even if you're falling, you're not feeling gravity. You're just feeling air.
Well, you would feel the effects of gravity.
But eventually you won't anymore. But like little stuff you can't see it. If you're stationary right here, you can't see it, but there's force being asserted on everything. So, like I said, it's little things like that. Just because I can't see it, I'm not going to say I can't believe it.
Yeah, and I think that's wise.
Yeah.
It's the position that a person is that says that is usually they say they're agnostic. Have you ever heard that?
Yeah, I've heard that.
So what it means is it's basically agnostic actually means ignorance, which it's not a derogatory way. It's more I'm smart enough to admit that I just don't know everything. It's really and I will perfectly agree with that.
So
if I wasn't a Christian, I think I would be an agnostic, because I would have to say, well, I don't know, and so that, to me, that's the smart way to go. As a Christian, though, I believe, I have this faith that God exists and that the Bible is true, because of a lot of, I can't even say just a lifetime of experiences, but it's not like I chose to be a Christian. It's more, although I did make a choice. But as I look back, it's like it was the only choice I could make. It was like all of a sudden I realized I believe. I better put this belief into action, So, but the belief came as a result of a lot of different things. I feel like it was a reasonable faith. And it's possible to be a Christian and have good reasons for belief. Now, if I did what you were talking about a little while ago, saying I like all these different ideas from these different religions, it's kind of like a buffet table.
Yeah, that's what I say, a la carte. That's what I say.
A la carte. Really, what you're doing is you're kind of like picking and choosing what God would be like, and kind of telling God what He is like, rather than saying, "Okay, God, you're God. You tell me." See what I'm saying? So the Bible actually, you're familiar with like the Ten Commandments and everything. So the second commandment says, "You shall not make or serve false idols," which back then that meant like making statues, or some kind of images. I don't know if you're aware of, like Moses came down from Mount Sinai and they had made this golden calf and they were like worshiping it. So they had seen these idols in Egypt, and they were nervous because their leader, Moses, was gone, and so they make this idol that they want to be their leader and their mascot and bow down, and maybe it'll serve them, right? So they made a god that they were more comfortable with, and that's called idol worship. So if we do that, it's possible to do that actually without making a statue. We could just make an image in our mind. You know what I'm saying? So basically that whole idea of like the buffet table is like picking all these things about God that you like from different sources and putting it all together and making your own image of what God is like and having your own ideas of what God is like. It's basically, the Bible would be very against that. It would say that you're making an idol. Okay. So just so you know.
Okay, no, it makes sense. Like,
yeah, and so the Bible presents God as someone who made us and reveals himself to us, and we couldn't discover him on our own. We're not that smart, you know, like so like, for example, the Bible begins with, in the beginning God created, right? First five words of the Bible. Already it's saying that there was a beginning of time, and then it starts to say God created the heavens and the earth and all that. So it's basically saying everything that you see was created. There was a time when it didn't exist, but in that time when it didn't exist, there was a God who basically existed forever because he was there in the beginning. Okay. Which blows my mind. like to say, in the beginning, God existed forever, you know?
and I guess the biggest thing was, like, the curiosity person would say, okay, so what happened when everything did begin? It's almost like a prequel. Because if you view it in stages, like, or at least when I was like, okay, so if this is theoretically chapter 1. Yeah. Where's the prefix? And then
what came before, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So then the very common question people ask is, well, who created God then?
Exactly.
Right? So, but the Bible already beats us to the punch. It says, in the beginning, God created. Yeah. So in the beginning, to refer to anything that was there in the beginning is to say that was there all the time. You know. So already it's telling us what God is like, that God existed forever and that he's the creator and we're part of the creation, just in 5 words, you know. And so then it goes on to talk about what God did throughout history, and we can learn from that what God is like. Okay. And so we're not forced to pick and choose and make our own God. We're basically saying, okay, well, what does the Bible reveal about God, you know? And so it says a lot of things. One is that he's holy, he's set apart, he's good, perfect in every way, and that we're good, that we're made in his image, which it doesn't say exactly what that means, to be made in God's image, but the way I think about it is, like, if you see your image in a mirror, right? You're seeing something, you're seeing your image, but it doesn't have everything that you have. Like, there's no depth to it. No. You know, it wouldn't make any sounds, it wouldn't make any smells, or, you know, like, it's not...
it's just a snapshot, as I call it.
Yeah, so we're made in God's image. In some way, we're like God, but we're not God. So it, you know, it says that, you know, and it kind of like shows us our place, you know. So already it's telling us not just about who God is, but who we are, you know. And it says that we're good, and it says that, like, God made everything step by step, and every step of the way it says that it was good. And then he makes man and says, this is very good, you know, like, we're the crown of his creation, which is amazing, you know. And then, like, 2 chapters later, 3rd chapter of Genesis, you're familiar with Genesis and all that. So, I mean, it's talking about Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, and now all of a sudden we rebel against him by eating this forbidden fruit. Now we're not so good, and we're cursed.
Flaws,
and it says that they were given the knowledge of good and evil, and then basically from that point on in
We made our
history,
own.
we all have this knowledge of good and evil because we all have a conscience. So then it would, so then it's basically saying that whole idea of right and wrong doesn't come from us; it comes from God, and it's put in us as our conscience. So if you think about, like, if you wanted to decide something, like, you have a sense of what's right and wrong right now, right? If you wanted to change that, you really couldn't do it.
No, it's already instilled. I feel like it's already instilled.
Yeah, and so it's like this separate. It's almost like a referee in our head that.
Well, yeah,
You see what I'm saying? So it's like, okay, I know it's wrong to steal this, but in this situation, I think I can because I have all these excuses, and the referee is saying, I don't care about your excuses. It's wrong. You know what I'm saying? So we have. And this is what the Bible would say, we have a God-given sense of right and wrong. It doesn't come from us, it comes from God. And that's what, like, when I think about world religions, basically it says all people, not just Christians or, a certain religion or anything like that. It's basically anyone who's descended from Adam, which is everybody, according to the Bible. I realize different opinions about that, but everybody would have a conscience, a sense of right and wrong. And so, I have studied the different world religions, and they do all have a sense of, like, a code of ethics. You know, I think for a religion to be around for many generations, it's got to have something to offer people.
Correct,
and so that's
people are still following.
That's the positive thing about, I'm glad there's world religions that keep people from chaos, you know, because
if not, it's already a messed up world. Imagine.
Yeah. So of course there's extremists, but generally everyone has this sense of, I want to be a good person because I know what right and wrong are, and maybe they have, like you're saying, this sense that I may be held accountable for my behavior at some point, and so how do you feel you would do if everything, you have a kind of like a background on the Bible, so you have a good sense of what it teaches. If it was to be true, and like it says that we're all going to die, we live one life and we die. It's not a resurrection,
we don't get our
reincarnation or anything like that. So the Bible actually, like, there's a verse that clearly says it's appointed for man to die once, and after that comes judgment. And so it's basically saying you have one life, and then you will be held accountable for that life. How would you do?
So between heaven, hell, and purgatory.
Well, yeah. Purgatory is not in the Bible.
It's not.
So it's actually down to two.
if that was going to be that, if it's between those two, I would say heaven. Mm-hmm. I think, because I feel like if you go by your days and you feel like you're being tested, if your morals are being tested and you acknowledge it and do good, you're in the right track. I think the hardest thing that, especially for me, is helping another person. Yeah. In this day and age, that's the one thing that, unfortunately, people either don't want to do or don't have the time to, whatever the case may be. So I acknowledge that one for myself.
That's the thing you fall short in.
That was one thing I knew I used to fall short in. I'm making a better effort on it day by day. I always say, what would old George do versus new George? And if it's something I would have agreed a couple of years ago with, then I'll do the opposite of it.
Okay.
So I'm not gonna lie. A couple of years ago, I'm like, no, I don't want to do your little.
Are you talking about helping, like, strangers or just people that you know?
No, like strangers too. Like sometimes, like, even if it's walking, unfortunately, past a homeless person or whatnot, it was just basically, I don't know if it was a sense of entitlement or I'm better, but the point is that I had an epiphany, I want to say, and I just say, that's not the type of person I want to be. So if I have the means or the time to do it, I'm gonna make the effort.
So you feel like you're improving?
Oh yeah. I never feel like I'm going backwards. If anything, I always feel like if I stay at least the same as I woke up the same today, if not shooting up.
Yeah. And do you feel like that is what makes you a better person? Is that you're improving? You're not perfect,
I think it was me acknowledging. I think acknowledging that I wasn't. and that I am moving forward gives me at least a sense of self-satisfaction.
Yeah.
Just to at least know that I'm doing it just because I know it was wrong to do it in the past.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest thing.
Well, let me give you a little good person test, okay? You open to that?
Go ahead. I can't
Okay.
say it.
How many lies do you think you've told in your life?
Oh, wow. Like, I can't even... Millions, probably. I'm not going to lie.
Okay.
I'm not going to lie right there, yeah.
And probably less as you go.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
But you have told.
Oh,
a lot of
yeah.
lies.
Yeah, well, that's... Not even going to lie about that one.
Yeah. How many lies would it take to be a liar?
Oh, just one.
Just one.
Just
Okay.
one.
So you would, by your own admission, you'd be a liar. I'm not judging you. Or
Oh, yeah.
anything.
No.
It's just a fact,
Yeah, absolutely,
right?
yeah.
So the Bible actually says that, you shall not bear false witness, which basically is telling lies. It's one of the 10 Commandments. I won't go through them all, but I'll just give you a few more examples. Okay. Have you ever taken anything that didn't belong to you?
Yeah.
Okay. What would you be called then?
Oh, a shoplifter, a thief.
A thief. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever used God's name disrespectfully?
Oh, yes.
Okay. It's like using the Lord's name.
Yeah.
Okay? It's called blasphemy.
Yeah,
Right.
the old
I don't know
term.
if you-
Yeah, the old term.
Hopefully you've never murdered anyone.
Never murdered anyone.
Now, Jesus, a lot of people think Jesus, when he came along, he was like the God of the Old Testament is wrathful and vengeful, and but Jesus comes along and he's forgiving and kind and everything. But Jesus actually, even though he demonstrated more love than we could ever
Comprehend or show.
comprehend, and just magnified the love of God from the Old Testament. In the New Testament, we see Jesus being loving, and that's why we focus on that. But at the same time, he was also strict and
Teacher.
well, he said things like this. He said it's wrong to murder, but if you have hatred in your heart towards your brother and you call him a fool or a bad name, you're in danger of the fire of hell. So he's basically saying it's wrong to murder, because he was teaching about murder, but then he says even if you call someone a name in anger, you're hurting them with your words. It's like you're trying to murder them in a way, right? Have you ever done that? Use harsh language towards anyone in anger?
When I want to say when I was in my teenage years, so like I said, I think going back to the whole.
So less and less, but still.
Yeah, so when you said the whole stealing. Yeah, when I was a child, my dad wouldn't give me. I would do that when I was a child. Maybe jealousy towards my younger siblings. I was the oldest one, but my brother had I almost lost my brother. He was in intensive care for 3 weeks, and unfortunately, it took a chance of almost losing him to start treating him like my brother with respect and everything.
Yeah.
So since then,
definitely learned from that.
I learned from that. I was still a freshman in high school, and then from that moment, I never at least with my siblings.
Yeah.
I've always just I'm gonna protect them. And to this day, they're still baby brother, baby sister. They're both over 21, but I'm still their protector.
Yeah.
So I was, but like I said, I guess I needed something to shake me or wake me away from that. And like I said, I think that happens. Hopefully, you get a life lesson like that. It doesn't have to be extreme like that.
Yeah.
And I would have to say thank God that I didn't lose him there. But yeah, it did. That did shake up my world to make me know that okay, I gotta change some things.
Yeah, and that's good. I mean, we definitely need to learn from our experiences.
Yeah.
And, you appreciate someone when they go through something like that. And you see them there on the bed.
And I see almost like a lifeless body. It destroyed my world.
Yeah. Was he older than you?
No, he's young. He was a baby. He was maybe 7 or 8, but we're 8 years apart. But I was already in high school, and it was to the point where they thought he wasn't going to make it.
Yeah.
And that's what really just
woke
me up.
Yeah.
It woke me up.
So I feel like God could take something like that and make something good come out of it. It helps.
It did. It shook me up, and
yeah. Last one, I won't go through all the commandments, but adultery, you know what adultery is, right? So, sex outside of marriage. So, Jesus said adultery is wrong, but then he says, if you look at a woman lustfully, you're committing adultery in your heart. And I don't think it has to be a woman in person. It could be on the internet or in a magazine, or but it's just the idea of fantasizing about something that's not yours and something you'd be guilty of.
Yeah, I'm not married, but I do have a child out of wedlock, so
yeah.
Then there's another So
but usually like just to. I mean, so there's that, but then there's also just a daily thing of, seeing a woman and
you know what, I guess, and it's funny because maybe it's the society we live in where it's okay to take a glance or whatever the case may be, but the point is you start glancing and then you start glancing more, and then I think once you start thinking.
Yeah,
that
entertaining. The way I put it is, you choose to dwell on those thoughts.
You dwell on it. I think that's a better way of saying it. That's when it starts leading. Into that one. So, unfortunately, I don't want to make excuses because there can't be excuses. But I think just because it's society of what we're exposed to and what we see, it could be from a young age too or whatnot, that we think it's okay, but deep down, sometimes you'd be like, "Oh, I shouldn't be."
Right.
So you do hear that little voice sometimes.
Yeah, and that again is our God-given conscience. So now this sounds strict, but I mean, I think it's really good that you're improving and all that sort of thing. But God expects that of us. As we get older, we should improve. We learn from our mistakes and learn from our. I don't want to call them just mistakes because they're like moral failures. The church word is sins, and we like to just say, well, it's a mistake, like a mistaken addition or something. But it's more of a moral. For Adam and Eve, it was a rebellion against God and just saying, God, we're not going to listen to your rules. We're going to do our own thing. And so, if those are God-given rules in our hearts, then we're basically rebelling against God. When we do break those, go against those morals. So, if you were to die today, you're standing before God, He's judging you. You'd be according to what you told me, a liar, thief, blasphemer, murderer at heart, adulterer at heart. Would you be guilty or innocent standing before God?
See, and this is where I start having issues with the whole church aspect of it. So when I feel I've done something wrong, I do go to confession. Mm-hmm. So I know we haven't talked. So I do go to. I try to at least strive to go at least every 2 months, maybe. Mm-hmm. It's been 3 months since my last one, but I do go in there, and even if I felt like I've taken His name in vain, it's very easy just to snap and you don't think, you don't have a filler for your mouth. So that's the easiest one that I think I shouldn't be able to do. So I do go for that one to confess and everything. I haven't stolen anything since teenager years, obviously.
Yeah.
When I turned 13, I learned it was a little airplane. My dad, and it's just because he said no. Uh-huh. So then after that, I'm like, you know what? I'm done. I'm done. I don't want to get hit no more. but it was, it's explaining why.
Yeah.
And then even with the whole confessions and everything, you know what? No, I don't. Like if he said, you're going to hell, I think
You're like a priest when you're in.
Oh no! I'm like going back to your question. So how you think you did? I'm like, you know what? I'd probably be the first one to say, you know what? I didn't take the chances to better myself. It doesn't matter monetary, job, successfulness, because once you're up there, you got nothing. Yeah. All you got is your word, your character, and you don't even have a body, just your soul up there. So did I take good care of my soul? I'm starting to, but I wouldn't be shocked if you hit down on the elevator.
Yeah. I don't want to interrupt you, but God. The Bible teaches that God is a God of love. He loves people. He loves us. He's not against us. He's for us. But He's also a God of justice, and He loves justice. And so His goodness, the fact that God is good, means He loves justice. So like a good judge would love for justice to be served. You know what I mean? Like, we like justice. We like to see the bad guy get caught and not get away with murder and stuff like that. So, generally. Now, lately, they've been trying to make the bad guy look good and try to make you feel sorry for him and all that. But in general, we believe in justice. So, and we want a God who is just, right? So, but the problem is, we want other people to get what they deserve, but we don't want to get what we deserve.
Correct, yeah.
So, if you are standing before God, you're guilty of all these crimes against Him, sins against Him. What you deserve would be not heaven; it would be hell. It would be a punishment, right? Yeah. Now, the idea of that confession thing, I think I can explain that real quickly. The Bible makes it sound like there's an actual verse that says if you confess your sins, He is faithful and just to forgive us our sins and cleanse us from all unrighteousness. Have you ever heard that?
Yes.
It's in the Catholic Mass, and I grew up Lutheran, so it was in our services too. But it's in the Bible. It's based on a Bible verse. The verse is written, it's in a book of the Bible. It's a letter written by John, one of Jesus' disciples, and he's writing to a church. So the church is people who are Christians, who have put their faith in Jesus, okay? What that means is when they put their faith in Jesus, they were forgiven of their sins. They were saved, basically. In this, I think I can explain it like with an analogy. I'm married, and I'm legally, the day that I got married, I was legally married to my wife. Like no matter what happens, of course there's divorce and all that, but no matter what happens, we're married in the eyes of the law, and with each other and our friends, we're legally married. But that doesn't mean we're always getting along. We might have an argument,
a disagreement.
Right? So even though we're legally married, if we have an argument, we might not have a good relationship that day.
Correct, yeah.
And so what I have to do is I have to go back to her and I have to say, honey, I'm really sorry I was wrong, and it's pretty much always me that was wrong. So I have to confess my sins, and He's faithful and just to forgive. She will forgive me usually if it's a heartfelt apology. I have to restore that relationship. I have to get back into what's the Bible says fellowship. I have to get back into fellowship with my wife, right? Even though we were married all along. So the Bible's in the same way, this analogy kind of applies towards Christians. If you put your faith in Jesus and you become forgiven, you're always a Christian, but you're not always in a right relationship with God. And sin might come in, you might do something that puts you out of a right relationship with God. It doesn't mean you're not going to heaven, you're not saved, anything like that. It just means you're not in fellowship with God. And so that verse that was, it says if you confess your sins, it was written to people who are already saved, already put their faith in Jesus, and it's showing them how they can get back into a right daily relationship with God. And so it's basic. God is presented in the Bible as He's our Father, and our Heavenly Father, and we want to be in a relationship with Him. Prayer is part of that relationship with Him. You talk to Him, and reading the Bible is kind of probably the main way I as a Christian have found that God speaks to me is through the Bible, and other ways, too, through maybe church involvement or whatever. But so there's kind of like a relationship. But if I sin and I'm unrepentant and don't confess my sins, that's going to come between me and God. And so I need that fellowship restored. So, and I think the Catholic Church, originally when they established this, you go to the priest for confession, I think they probably wanted people to realize that you can't just sin and leave it unconfessed. You need to make things right with God. I don't know if they originally wanted to say, oh, you're going to hell if you don't do it, but that's unfortunately what a lot of people believe if I don't go to confession, I'll go to hell, and that's not what it's about at all. So that's kind of where that fits in. But the whole idea that you have to put your faith in Jesus is to say, I could never, the good things that I do, I should do anyway, because God expects that of me. I'm healthy and I have energy and I have the ability to make money and I can help people, and God expects that, rightly so, because He gave it all to me. so I should do good. But I can't pay for the bad that I've done and the punishment I deserve with the good things that I ought to do. Anyway, that's all. That's like bribing the judge. I can't. The judge would be offended if I tried to pay him off with my good deeds or with money or with whatever. Yeah. So God is a judge. He loves He loves justice, but He also loves mercy. He wants to show us mercy. So His justice demands there must be a payment for our sins, but His mercy says, I'll take that punishment for you in your place. You can receive that by putting your faith in Jesus. So that's where Jesus' death it wasn't just a good example. It had to happen in order for God's justice to be satisfied, for God to be just, completely just, and make sure that there's a penalty for sin, but also to be completely loving and to be able to say he paid that price for us. So we have a choice to make. Is do we want to put our trust in Jesus and what He did on the cross, or do we want to trust in basically in our own good works and hope that we can somehow pay for the bad we've done with our good deeds? And but our good works can't do it. It's the message of the Bible. We could never be that good. But we don't need to, because Jesus died in our place. So that's what people helped me to understand when I was a young man, and helped me to realize I need to put my faith in Jesus. And pretty much by the time they helped me to see that, I realized I do believe in Jesus. I'm just going to go ahead and make it official. And I prayed to Jesus and said, I put my faith in you, and I want to live for you now. You gave your life for me. I want to give my life to you now. That's what happened for me. So have you ever heard it explained that way, or?
No, I mean, it's sometimes you need to hear it from someone else, but you get like an aha moment and everything. But I haven't explained that way. All you usually heard, like, at least it's probably changed now since I went to like catechism and confirmation as well, was basically you put all your faith in Jesus, but then the human mind, when we're told to do something, it's human nature to be like, why?
Yeah.
Or unfortunately, it's what's in it for me nowadays.
Yeah. And just to do that becomes, if you don't really understand why to put your faith in Jesus, well, because I can't trust in my own good deeds. So it almost becomes another one of those religious acts that you add to your list of religious acts, like going to church and praying and helping poor people.
It becomes a hassle. It becomes more of a...
Well, it becomes something you have to do in order to be saved, and so you're still depending on your good works.
Yeah.
So
okay. it makes sense.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, I think the biggest thing is that you start being told to do something when you don't want to do it. You start getting resentment towards it.
Yeah.
Explaining it and just breaking it down sometimes just to show what it can lead up to.
Yeah.
Or why we even have to do it, instead of just being saying you have to do it. I think that's the biggest thing, is why.
Yeah.
We always want to answer questions. We always want the answers to questions. I'm sorry, versus a direct statement and whatnot.
Yeah.
And it was the same thing. My dad always used to say that I do this. I'm like, why? Well, if I had why, there was a repercussion for saying why.
Right.
But it's just basically.
The ultimate question though is, I think it's important to take things all the way back to the beginning. If Adam and Eve had said why when God said, don't eat from that tree, right? And they were like, why? And ultimately we do have to get to the point where we say, well, because He's God and we're not, and that's why.
It is, but I think just so many years.
But then if it comes through human mouths, then it starts to sound like someone's pulling a power play over us.
So, I
mean, God can say that. He can say, because I'm God and you're not, because I said so. He can say that because He deserves to say that. Like if He made the whole universe, and we're becoming more and more aware of how vast it is, and if He made this life, then he deserves, like the Bible actually presents God, it says he's a jealous God, right? And it's like, how could God be jealous? Isn't that kind of like a what's the word? A trite human emotion, But God has every right to be jealous, because if he made us in a way that we need him more than anything else, just for our very existence, and like if you think about it, every breath we take and every beat of our heart, we can't make it happen. We depend on God. And he gives us our food every day and puts clothes on our back, gives us the ability to make money so we can get these things. Like, everything depends on God. And so to say God is jealous that we would go chasing after something else or worship it, come up with our own idea of a different God or something, and God's jealous of that, he deserves to be jealous, because he deserves our total devotion. And, so God is the only one in the universe who could be jealous and rightfully be jealous. To say, I'm upset that you would go chasing after something else other than God, other than myself. Now, if I said that, to my wife, to some girl or whatever, or anyone, I said, you need to just revolve your whole world around me. That'd be sick, Yeah.
Yeah.
But God can say, you need to revolve your whole world around me, because I'm the source of everything. And so the Bible actually teaches that God is seeking to, his purpose in making us is that he would be glorified, and that we can live our lives for him. So just to kind of tell you the way it's been for me as a Christian is, if you think about it, if almost all the religions, and even Christianity, most people, if you're born in Catholicism or Christianity, you come up in it, it's very easy to just think, I just have to do A, B, C, and D, and then I'll go to heaven, right? Yeah. And almost every religion, whether it's a heaven or a nirvana or higher reincarnation, there's some sort of a better afterlife based on your good behavior in this life, right? And so you go through life thinking, okay, have I done enough? Good. Have I done enough? Have I done enough? And there's this weight on your shoulders, And then you think, if I'm doing things just because I want to be rewarded, then that takes away from their goodness, because I'm just doing them for selfish reasons, and then I can't win,
Yeah.
And but so what I've experienced as a Christian is that I came to a point where I had to say, okay, I have blown it. I have rebelled against God in all sorts of different ways. I'm a sinner. I don't deserve heaven. I deserve to be punished in hell. But God sent his son to die in my place. He paid for he took the punishment I deserve. He is so infinitely worthy that all of my punishment has been paid. I don't have to do anything more I didn't deserve it, and I didn't do anything to deserve it. It's just a gift I received, It's like, I don't have to pay for it because it's a gift, But how can I thank him? And Jesus said, if you love me, you'll keep my commands, So when I first became a Christian, I picked up a Bible. I started to read it because it was like, okay, I want to know what his commands are, because I want to respond with love. And I also knew that I had discovered something or found something that I wanted to share with everyone else, and so I felt like I better start reading the Bible so I can share it with others too, So that's become a very important part of my life. It's just daily Bible reading, and just becoming real familiar with the Bible. But so I feel like that's to live life wondering, how can I thank you, God, is a much better way to live than to live life thinking, what else do I have to do in order to be saved or go to heaven or whatever. Does that make sense?
It does. It sounds easier.
Yeah.
and it takes away.
I don't have the pressure. Yeah.
I think it might be pressure. I was gonna say the checks and balances system. If I do this, and I can, like, I think you said it, like,
Yeah.
you can check this off and everything.
Because I think, like, when you were saying all about the rebellion, like, oh, I got to do this. Why do I have to do that? That's a response to that. You've not done enough. You got to do this, and that's that's a very natural response. But if we understand where we are without Jesus, then it's like and we're living in rebellion against Him, and realize that what we did is deserving of hell, but Jesus paid for it, and so we just have a much better way to live than.
I think it's an easier understanding.
Yeah. So, well, let me close with this. It's probably been. Let me ask you this. So as a Christian, I've been wanting to share my faith with different people. Do you, if anyone watches this, how do you feel about this approach to sharing the Christian faith? Other than the cameras?
You know what? We got phones in our face every day with cameras. So I think as a society, we actually now thrive more on cameras being on you. It's a different approach. I think the biggest thing, though, it still comes down to the person. Do they want to? The issue is everybody wants to talk. Everybody wants a soapbox to say their message. It's just very difficult to listen.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the few things I've just noticed. Like, sometimes you just need to sit back and be quiet in the nicest way possible and just take it in. Just listen to what needs to be said, because if everybody's doing talking, nobody's going to listen. There's just too much. There's just too much conversation, too much chatter, too much distractions going on. So, and I think that's a lot of things with religions. There's just distractions going on. You don't hear when you hear Muslims or Islams. You hear about ISIS now. Or you hear about you always put a bet. With the Christian or with the Catholic Church, we had the whole scandals going on. So unfortunately, you're hearing all those distractions.
Yeah. I guess my question is, the reason I do the camera thing and put it on my blog is for other Christians, because I'm trying to. A lot of people, as Christians going to church, they don't share their faith. They don't. And so I'm trying to show. Well, how could we do it in a? You don't have to go on a street corner and preach at people.
You don't have to. You just have to. In this day and age, it's all about, you have to make it relevant, and you have to make it more relevant. Like you told me, like, I'm trying. It's a daily struggle every day with me, trying to see if I hit a check mark with everything. And versus, maybe I do need to sit. It's been years since I read the Bible. Maybe let's see. Maybe I'm older, I'm wiser. Maybe spending an hour just reading to see if it speaks to me. So just hearing it from someone else and just trying to relate to them. Is what's going to happen. It's what's going to make people, I want to say, being brought into the church. Because when I do it at church, it's more older. You don't see that many young people anymore unless the parents force you to go. But then again, we go back into that why, or they hate, or they have the resentment because they went for so many years because mom and dad told them to go. So it's about relevance, and it's about just taking the time.